Hi everyone! Today we're going to be making a game in Unity, and this is for absolute beginners, so you don't need to know anything about coding or really anything for that matter in order to get started here, okay? So we're going to be making a lava game, so I'm going to call this Lava Jumper. Okay, so this is the name of my new project. The template is going to be 3D, and then I'm just going to click Create Project. Alright, so here we are in our new game that's been created. Now it may seem a little bit overwhelming if you haven't seen this before, but basically what we have going on here is on the side we have the objects in our scene, and our scene is right here. It's just a place, or like a level, you can think of it, for our objects. Okay, so we have a camera, and we have a light. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create a starting place for the player. So I'm going to right click here and go to 3D Object, Cube. Alright, so now we have a cube. I can hover the mouse over the scene and press F to focus the cube. So that looks nice. I'm also going to open the inspector here in the top right, and this will tell us properties about the cube. So it's positioned at 0, 0, 0, no rotation, no scale. Alright, but I do want it to be a little bit wider, so what I'm going to do is here in X, I'm going to change this to 4, and I'm going to change Z to 4 as well. So in this grid system, Y is up, and X and Z are forwards and sideways. So now we need a player. So the easiest way to get a player working is go to Assets, Import Package, Characters, and then import all of these. Okay, now that that's done, we have this standard assets folder. So that's what was created when we downloaded that. Now inside of standard assets, there's a folder called characters, another folder called first person character, and then a folder called prefabs. And in this folder, we want to grab the FPS controller and drag that into the scene. I'm going to put it right there, right on top of our block. Okay, now I'm going to click on this translate icon and drag the player up. Make sure that he's selected right here. Okay, so this is our new camera. So this player has a camera attached to him so he can look around. So this other camera, this main camera, I'm going to delete that by pressing delete, or if you're on a Mac, command delete. Okay, so let's see if our player works. So the way we run our game is we press this play button. Okay, so already I can move around, and I even have sound, and I can jump. Great, so this is perfect. So this first person object is given to us by Unity. Thank you, Unity. And the way it works is it has this script attached to it called first person controller, and maybe one day we'll look at that in more detail, but for now we're just going to use the defaults, and you can mess with these if you want, changing the walk and run speed, but we're just going to keep the defaults for this tutorial. Okay, the next thing we need in our game is lava, because it is called Lava Jumper. Okay, so I'm going to right click over here in the scene and go to 3D Object, Plane. Okay, so our lava is going to be a plane. Alright, and I'm going to press R in order to get to the scaler, and then I'm going to scale this thing out really big. Okay, so now it's really big, over 100 times bigger than it was before, and it is white, which we don't want it to be, so what I'm going to do is go click on this assets folder, and then right click and create a material. Alright, and what a material is a color and a texture optionally applied to an object. Okay, so these are all objects in our scene. Okay, so my material is going to be called Lava Material. Alright, and I'm going to click here and change its color to be orange. Now I'm going to drag it onto the lava. So there we go, that looks a lot better. Also, we can spice up this platform. I'll go ahead and name these as well. I'll name this cube platform, and I'll name the plane lava. I'm going to right click and make another material for the platform. This one's going to be platform material. Okay, and guys, a lot of the learning process is just messing around with your available options. So be sure to choose like your own unique colors here and mess around with these settings. Okay, so my block is going to be dark gray. Alright, so I'm going to change that and drag it onto the platform. There we go. Okay, let's see how that looks in the game. I'm going to press play again. Okay. And I can currently walk on the lava, so that's not so good. But everything looks nice at least. Alright, so now we need our first script. Okay, so this script is going to make it so that when we touch the lava, the game restarts. Okay, so I'm going to click on this lava object. Okay, so I'm going to click Add Component, New Script, and it's going to be called Lava Script. Okay, and now I'm going to click here on this gear and then Edit Script. Now this is going to open it in whatever code editor you have set up, which is likely going to be MonoDevelop. Anything will work. I like using VS Code, so here we are. Alright, so I think a great way to detect if the player is below the lava is in this lava script. We're going to check in the update function, which is called once per frame. If the player's Y position, so if his vertical position is below the lava, then we're going to restart the game. Okay, so to do that, up here we need to create a reference to the player. So the lava script needs to know about the player. So that's going to be a game object. It's going to be called player. So this is a variable inside of C#, which is the language I'm using here. And this is going to be a serialized field. Okay, and that just means that this variable is going to be able to be set from the editor. So after a short delay here, we should see this update. There it is. We have this player variable available on the lava script. So lava selected, we see the player available here. And now I'm going to drag this FPS controller onto the player variable. So now the lava script knows who the player is. Alright, and inside of this update function, I'm simply going to check if the player dot transform. So the transform is a component on all game objects, which is their position and rotation and scale, among other things. So if the transform position, the Y position, is less than this dot transform dot position, so then we need to restart the game. And in order to do that, we need to import Unity Engine dot scene management. So this is a library provided by Unity, which allows us to restart the scene. So thank you, Unity. We are just going to say scene manager dot load scene, and then we pass it the scene name, and I'm going to call this scene arena. Oh, and up here I forgot to put Y, so we're comparing the Y positions of the player and lava. So if the player is below the lava, then we're going to load the scene arena. So remember, the scene is just the level. And down here I'm going to close up this closing brace. Alright, so to make sure our scene exists, I'm going to save here using Command S on Mac or Control S on Windows. And it looks like our scene is already saved to a folder here called Scenes, so it's Sample Scene. Okay, so I'm going to rename Arena to Sample Scene, because that's what our scene is called by them, so we'll just keep that. Okay, do you think it's going to work? Let's press the play button. Alright, here we are. I'm going to jump into the lava. And oh, it didn't work. So why didn't it work? Well, we still collided with the lava. So this mesh collider on the lava, I'm just going to remove that because we don't need that. Alright, let's test it again. Alright, we're back on the block. So it seems to be working. Alright, so the next thing I think we should do is make it so new blocks spawn around the player as the lava rises. I think we can just put that in the lava script as well. So I'm going to make a function here. So a function is just a block of code which can be executed by the computer at some point. So I think on a timer we should say we want a new block to spawn. So this function is going to be called spawn block. Okay, and in order for that to work, we actually need another game object, which is the block. Okay, so this will be the block. It's called a prefab. So what a prefab is if you drag an object from the scene into the assets folder, or any of these folders down here, it'll make an object that looks like this. It'll have this blue cube icon, and it means that you can make more of them. So I can drag more platforms out here, and they'll be identical to the first. So like if I change this one to have a different box collider, then all I have to do is click apply, and that'll synchronize all of the platforms together. So it's a really useful feature. Again, that's called a prefab. And our lava object needs to know about that prefab, because we need our lava object to spawn platforms. So to make our object, we type instantiate, okay? And then we pass instantiate a block, and then the position we would like, we are just going to call that pos for now. We'll worry about that in a second. And then the rotation, we're going to set that to be the default rotation. And that's quaternion.identity. Okay, now this pos variable is the position which we would like to spawn the block. So I think that should be to any side of the player, anywhere around him. Okay, now our position variable, which is where we spawn the block, needs to be declared before this. So I'm going to declare it now, vector3 pos, so that's the syntax for C#. But I need to assign it to something, so by default I'm going to set it to be the player's position. Okay, and then we want it to randomly offset, so the way we do that is we just roll the dice. We say, Unity, give me a random number between 0 and 1, so the 2 is not included here, and if that number is 0, add an offset to the position. So I'm going to say position plus equals vector3 dot right. And then we're going to add another line after that, which rolls the dice again, and then adds vector3 dot forward. Okay, so it's either going to go forward or to the right. So we'll start with that. So now we have a spawn block function, which its job is to spawn a block either forward or right of us, or actually right where we are, depending on how lucky we get. Also, we want the position y value to be the lava y value. And that's just so that the block doesn't get spawned in the middle of the player. Alright, so the way we actually spawn the blocks is in the start method, or when the game starts, we say invoke repeating, okay? And this is going to call this method, spawn block, every 5 seconds or so. So this first parameter is the name of the function, second one is how long until we call it, and then the third one is how long between repeat times. Okay, so let's try that out. Alright, so we're here in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so we have some platforms created here. So I pressed Command Shift P, or in Windows probably Control Shift P, to pause the game. So we can click on these platforms and again press F to inspect where they are. Alright, so it looks like they were created, but with not as great of an offset as I would have liked. Alright, so we want the blocks to have a greater offset than just vector3.right, which is basically like one Unity unit, which is not very far. Okay, so I'm going to make a variable here called offset multiplier. Alright, and this is going to be 5 for now. This might be too high, but so all we do is take that variable and then we multiply it times the offset that we use. And also, I want our offset to be able to be any of the directions. So instead of doing random range 0, 2, I'm going to do 0, 5 so that it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the possibilities. And then basically make it so that only one direction will be picked out of any of 4 directions. So we have right, and we're going to pick left, back, and forward. So only one of these will be picked. And to guarantee that, I'm going to make the last one an else. So let me explain this real fast. So basically, we pick a random number between 0 and 4, and then if it's 0, then we choose the position to be offset by the right direction. Otherwise, we get to try again, try our luck again, number 0 through 4. If the number is 0 this time, then we choose left as our direction. Same thing for back. And finally, if none of those things happened, we're just going to default to forward. Okay, so it'll always pick an offset. And then it will spawn the block at the player's position plus that offset. And also remember that we set the Y to be the lava position. So that way, if you jump as the player, you won't screw up the spawning position. Alright, so we're here back in our game again. Looking around for more blocks. Oh my goodness, one spawned. There it is, jumped on it. There's another one. Great. Alright, so we're actually almost done with our game. All we gotta do now is make the lava rise. All we gotta do is say this dot transform, which refers to the lava's transform, dot position, plus equals vector3 dot up. Okay, so this will make the lava rise, but that's gonna be way too fast. So we need another variable here, and this one's gonna be a float, which is a more precise number than an integer, so it can be decimals. And that's going to be 0.02 for now, we'll say. And you have to put f after it, otherwise it won't know that it's a float. And this is going to be called rise rate. Okay, and we take this number and we multiply it by the up vector. Okay, so this is how fast the position gets risen up. Okay, so let's try that out. Again, update is executed every frame, so we don't want that number to be too high, otherwise it'll be out of control. Alright, so it's restarting too fast. Alright, and that just means that this starting block is not high enough for us to stay safe for very long. So I'm going to make this higher by clicking up here on the scale and dragging this up. Okay, so I'm going to do something like 6. I like it to be round numbers, so I'm going to change it to be like 8 over here, okay? And then press apply. Alright, and also we need to raise up the player, so I'm going to click on the FPS controller, which is our player, and click this transform button, and drag him up. Alright, so I'm going to save that and test it out. Alright, so looking around for more blocks. I see one. I wasn't able to get on it in time. Looks like they're a little too tall for us to jump on top of. One way to fix that is just to make the player jump higher. So I'm going to change the jump speed to be like 20. Okay, looking around for more blocks. Found one. There we go, so I was able to jump on that. Alright, there's the next one. Alright, I kind of want more blocks to spawn, so that's more fun. So back in our lava script, I'm going to change the spawn rate to be like 2. Alright, looking around for more blocks, there's one. I do want to lower the jump speed, it was a little much, so I'm going to make it like 12. Let's try it again. Alright, great, so I think our game is working. It's a little laggy because I'm recording at the same time. But basically I can jump on new blocks as they're created and avoid the lava. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial, you guys. Let me know if you liked it in the comments below, and subscribe for more videos like this.